I went to a friend of mine called Riaz Amlani. I said, listen, Riaz, I feel I have a sort of a, I understand food really well. I understand service. I have food common sense or restaurant common sense. I have that, but I don't have the admin or operational part, which I need to understand. And can you help me? I need to open this fantastic Japanese restaurant. I'm going to become a billionaire. So help me. And he's like, yeah, cool. Of course. Let's talk about it. We started reading through the contract, realized very quickly, in 15 minutes that it's absolutely unaffordable. It's impossible. The franchise fees were crazy, the kind of requirement, like get a sommelier or sake sommelier, get a wine sommelier, get 3 refrigerators for 3 different types of fish. And he's saying that, listen, by the time you do this, and in India, with these prices, it's going to take you like 10 years to recover your money if you're lucky.
Hello, and welcome to Indian Explorers. In this podcast, we talk about Indian success stories. I am Sabrina, and together with my co host Amit, we will get to understand the journey of our guests and what drives them. The optimism, patience, idealism, and courage, these are their attributes that we want to bring to life in these conversations. So, we hope you enjoy the show. Please hit the subscribe button and share this episode with others. Hey, how are
Hi,
you?
good morning, Sabrina.
Good
Not
morning.
so great today, to be honest with you.
Tell me why.
Um, it's upsetting me, humanity. This whole Israel,
Mm-hmm.
Hamas, Palestinian thing it looks like it's only just beginning, and it looks like it's a shit show from all sides. So it's a bit
Yeah,
upsetting.
the coverage is so saddening to see, the innocent people dying, the children dying. It's heartbreaking, honestly. And I mean, history of this violence there
Yeah,
just doesn't stop.
I think
So,
I think the only good thing is that I think Hamas is going to be eradicated. The military terrorism group of the
mhm,
Palestinians. I don't know how many there are. They're saying there's about 30,000 of them. They're about to get invaded by 360,000 Israelis.
yeah,
So the only sad thing is that the amount of, casualties that are going to happen, they've already exceeded the number of deaths, the Palestinians, versus the amount that Hamas killed that weekend. So um, it's the hospitals doesn't have any supplies. They've cut off the electricity. The hospital is going to become a morgue. So
yeah,
it's obviously Hamas needs to be taken down. They're a terrorist group, but the Palestinians just want their free state and their land, and the West and the American everyone's ignored them for decades, and there is no win. There is no happy story. This is just going to be a long war, and it's going to get very ugly. And there is just no positive thing to say about this. So it's actually
none.
upsetting me, and it pisses me off.
Well, then, shall we move to some happier news as we keep everyone in that area of the world in our thoughts?
Yeah, I think we have no choice. I saw there's a new billionaire in America.
Yeah.
You saw what happened?
The Powerball, $1.7 billion.
What would you do, Sabrina, if your lottery ticket got you $1.7 billion? How would you change your life? What would you do with that money?
Well, first of all, no one in my family would have to worry about bills anymore. That would be taken care of.
Please,
And
please specify immediate family, or does that include me? I would like to know.
you of course are included in that.
Okay.
Depends how you behave though. We'll see on that day where I
With
submit the ticket.
1.7 billion, it shouldn't matter.
I know,
Don't
seriously.
give me don't give me 100 million. Give me 10. Give me 10 million.
And it's funny because we don't really play the lottery. And when it was 1.2 million a few weeks ago,
Billion.
billion, 1.2 billion, you know, Noel and I have a new startup called the 5 Spheres of Fit. And we have an app, it's an MVP. And we were both thinking at the same time, if we won that, we would we wouldn't not work, we would pour money into it because the whole point of the startup is to help people, right? It's a lifestyle strategy. Um, so at that moment, I was like, I'm thinking the same thing. And he's like, well, maybe we should buy a ticket. So we bought a couple tickets. I still haven't checked it because I knew no one won. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's what I would do. I would continue doing what I'm doing to help people and travel a lot.
Hmm. I'm never buying any lottery tickets, so I'm not going to even think about that. But what I do think about is that that person who won $1.7 billion has to pay $900 million in taxation. One shot if he gets the money at one.
How
But
would you do it? Would you take it all at once or would you divide it up?
uh, I'd probably take it all at once
Same.
and start investing it, in mutual funds and Vanguard and all those things. And I don't
Yeah.
know what I would do, Sabrina, 1.7 billion. I think the first thing, buy houses for, Manish, Malu, mom, dad, whatever they wanted.
I totally included you in my 1.7 billion. You didn't say my name right now.
I would first do my immediate family, Sabrina. I'm not going to lie to you.
God.
I would see
Selfish.
how much they take of that 1.7 billion. And then from the rest, I would maybe have a 5% pool for
Okay, so
cousins.
I'm
And
second tier.
yeah,
Noted.
yeah. Maybe I put my best friends above you. Maybe we'll be third tier. I don't know. Let's hope that happens to one of us. Let's move on to our guest today.
Yeah, I'm hungry, so let's get to know him.
Let's get to know him.
Today, we're excited to have Sid Mathur on our show. After 9 years in the private banking and equity trading industry, Sid took a leap of faith to follow his passion, food. He is not only the director of the food conglomerate Impresario Entertainment and Hospitality, he is the founder of the food consulting company Secret Ingredient, India's #1 food consultancy. He's probably best known, however, as the founder of Khoya, luxury mithai, debunking the myth that luxury mithai do not go together. A few of Khoya's clients include Louis Vuitton, Chanel, the Albury Group, and of course Bollywood legend Karan Johar, who says Khoya is the new benchmark of mithai. There is so much in between all of this, including his beautiful family. So let's get to it. Welcome, Sid. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Sid,
No, thanks for being here. You're a busy man, so thank you.
long time, Sid. How you doing?
Yeah, amazing, amazing, all good.
Sid, let's start with the most important subject. Why the hell do you still use Hotmail?
You know what? I have massive OCD, and I've just had Hotmail. I mean, I guess all of us at one point probably had it. So I have every single thing filed perfectly, dated. I mean, it's excellent. Now, for me to move to another, service provider and not have those things, it's very difficult. So even though, but I have three other email addresses, Koya, Secret Ingredient, but they're
Okay.
all synced into Hotmail, so it's just easier.
I thought you were friends with Sabir Bhatia, who sold to
And
Microsoft,
that.
and I thought you were just a loyal kind of guy. Speaking of friends, I met you through our mutual friend, Gautam Ahuja, who came on the pod. I think it was the second or third guest. Very good friend of ours still. I think he's your childhood best buddy. So
Yes.
I don't know if he mentioned or you got to saw his episode.
Yeah, no, I did. I did get to see the episode and I really enjoyed it. I saw it after we spoke, in fact, so it was good fun to see it.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Shall we start at the beginning? Sabrina, do you want to go? Should I go?
Go for it. You start.
Okay, so let's give an introduction to people who don't know you, where you live, where you're born, where you're educated. I know Sabrina touched on it briefly, but maybe you can explain to us a little bit about your upbringing.
Sure. I was born in India, but at a very young age, when I was four, we moved to the UK, we moved to London. My father was an investment banker. That time it was Grindlays Bank, which then became ANZ Grindlays, and now, of course, Standard Chartered. But we moved to London in 1980, and I was about 5 years old at that time. Um, Spent about a decade in London. So all of the 80s, the best time to be a kid in the 80s in London. I mean, I was there, it was brilliant. Came back to Delhi, finished my O levels in the British school. And of course, in London, I went to a famous prep school called Hill House. which was where Prince Charles went, Sir Christopher Reeve, Sultan of Brunei's kids. It was a great school, but a really amazing school, very well-rounded. You had our principal was a colonel, so sometimes you
Bit
couldn't
snobby?
pass a grade.
Private snobby
No,
school?
not really. Actually, it was
No?
actually a great. The colonel believed that the best teachers were Australia, and from New Zealand. So most of the staff were from there. Very friendly, very focused on rounding off individuals. So learning how to cook food, learning how to eat with knife and fork, learning how to swim, learning how to survive, like what to do, how to make a compass, and of course the education was there too. But it was a great school. I think it really helped me,
It's
as
still
an
around?
individual to be well rounded. Of course, yeah. Hill
Oh,
House,
okay.
yeah,
I
in
went to
Hans
Bristol,
Place.
which was a preppy, snobby school.
There
Clifton
you go.
College.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go. Then moved back to Delhi. In fact, my father passed away at a very young age. In fact, when he passed away, he was younger than I am today. So he was only 46 years old. He passed away quite suddenly on the conference table. And after that, we didn't really have any family in London, so we decided just to move back because most of our family was here in Delhi. Moved back in 1990, joined the British school, which is where, in fact, I met Gautam. Um, and I did my O levels and A levels. After that, I got uh, emotionally tricked by my family to stay in India for college, and I went to a pretty good college in India called St. Stephen's College. It's a North Campus in Delhi, so that was an experience, not wild fun, but it was okay. And after that, I went straight into the world of banking, and because that's what my dad had done, and I just thought, okay, you know what, I'm just going to do the same.
Which bank?
My first stint was with ING Bearings. So it was a private bank. I started with ING, worked with them for quite a few years. After that, I switched to Citibank. And
Yeah.
after spending about 5 years in India, I moved to back to London in 2005. Then I spent 5 years with City Private Bank in London. We had office in Canary Wharf and in Berkeley Square. And from there, in about 2009, 2010, I decided that this overwhelming feeling of I need to be doing something different was kind of just building up too much. And that's when I made the break to come back to India.
Okay, you were single back then.
I was single. Yeah.
Okay, I
It
was
was
with Gotham next door.
2009.
I was at Credit Suisse in Canary Wharf with Gotham.
Yes, yes, yes. I know.
So, the financial crisis of 2007, 2008 happens. You're in London, you're single, and you're thinking, I need to do something else. And I read that food is your passion, but you were on the other side, of the restaurant. You were sitting enjoying food all these years. You're a foodie. And then what happens? You're like, I'm going to follow a passion of food.
You know, the credit crisis, I mean, it didn't really affect us. We were in private banking. There were like 18 people in my unit. There were about 600 people in the investment banking group downstairs. So for us, it wasn't really clients were still investing, clients were still understanding how to cap risks. I mean, work was okay for us. But I think my passion for food was at a very, very young age. Now that I think about it and talk about it. I think I started learning how to cook when I was about 9. My nanny would cook the most amazing, like sort of Mangalorean food, like coastal chicken curry, chicken coconut curries, and meat stews. And I would just love to see her. And I actually learned how to make it. I would start making some of this food when I was very young,
At
and
nine,
throughout at 9,
at
10,
9 years
at
old, you
10, yeah, by 10, I could make quite a lot of food. Um, and again, now growing through the years and also through school and college, I was always very interested in food. I was always a guy to pick for like, oh, it's a event. Let's sit handle the food. What's going to happen? Like even in Citibank, you're like, oh, it's like, we have to organize an event. Sid, please do it because, you're the guy, you're the food guy. So I had that reputation already and I loved it. In fact, there's a funny anecdote I can share with you that in Citibank, we were taking about 25 clients out for a very special evening with Jamie Oliver, one on one. So it was 25 clients, me, my boss, and a colleague, and Jamie Oliver and his team. And we were cooking with Jamie Oliver. So we got there and, it's great. And he's launching, everyone's chatting. He's like, listen, who wants to make some ravioli? I was like, me. It's like, great, come up, Sid, what's happening? Chatting away, making ravioli, did everything, went back, with the rest of the people. My boss just leaned over and he said, it's a client event. You're not supposed to make ravioli. The clients are meant to make the ravioli. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry. It was just too
Yeah.
exciting for me. Um, but yeah, in by 2000, I got promoted to senior vice president in Citibank, and when that happened, I felt okay. You know what? Now to MD is a few years, no matter what. So this could be the moment where I could go back to India, try my luck, open a restaurant, and give myself 2 years. If it doesn't happen, I'll come back. My boss was like, the door's always open. I said, I'll come back, and maybe I would have lost a year. I'll work
Okay.
harder and get to that next level faster. And that's what happened. That's when I came back
How
to
did your
India
mom
to
feel
sort
about
of
that?
get into all
What did
things
your
food.
mom think?
Oh, she was thrilled. I think
Thrilled.
she was just looking for any excuse for me to come back. So she was absolutely ecstatic when I told her, look, I'm coming back and I'm going to open a restaurant. For her, it was double good news.
But she just wanted to get you married, right? Or she just wanted your company?
I think both.
Oh, got it. You mentioned
I think both.
Gordon, Jamie Oliver. I figured you'd be more of a Gordon Ramsay fan. And what's the name of that guy? What's his name? I think he passed away now. Bordeaux? What's his name?
Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Anthony Bourdain.
Out of the
Yeah.
three, who's your role model? Who do you?
Do you know that? I actually think Marco Pierre White is also right up there for me because, when I was in the sort of verge of this kind of like, should I make this move? And like, is there a career for me? Can I earn money from food? How will I do it? Like all, I mean, it was playing through my
Yeah.
mind. I started reading a couple of books, and two of those was one by Gordon Ramsay. It was called Playing with Fire, and one was by Marco Pierre White. It's called Devil in the Kitchen.
And
And I
where is he
think that,
from, this
like
guy?
Marco
Marco
Pierre
Pierre.
White is actually he is the the chef to get his first three Michelin stars ever. He's like a legendary chef. He worked with some of the best restaurants, Gavroche, and he is a superstar chef. So in fact, Gordon Ramsay worked for Marco Pierre White. So he's like a
Oh,
legend. And I
prodigy.
read his book and I was very inspired by it. And in fact, it was wonderful for me because about 5 years ago he was in Delhi and I got a chance to meet him. And the same book that I was reading, I still had the same copy with me. And I took it and I said, listen, I told him my story. I said, this is, you know, your book was one of the things that I read and it kind of made me get more motivated in getting into food because he's a very passionate kind of guy. And he signed that specific book. And I still
Wow.
have that signed copy. So I thought that was pretty great.
He probably thought you were hitting on him with the crush.
Yeah, maybe. But he was great. He was really wonderful and he spent some time with me and it was
So,
nice. And it's quite eccentric guy.
Sid, I was wondering, so you're thinking I'm gonna go back to India and open a restaurant, right? Did you have an idea of what type of restaurant?
Yeah, in fact, I think my life was totally sorted out. It was amazing. So, in fact, Gautam and probably Amit and I have another common friend called Hiro. And Hiro Nishida is a Japanese fellow who's from New York. He created a brand called Megu, a very famous sort of Japanese brand, which now,
What
of
a,
course, is everywhere. Yeah,
yeah,
great, amazing food.
in New
And
York.
hilariously,
Wow.
when Gautam and me could not afford to eat anywhere else in New York, we'd have to eat Megu, which is probably the most expensive restaurant because Hiro was there. So, but it was, so he said, like, so when I was leaving, Hero told me, look, my gift to you, here it is. And he gave me, this envelope, and it was two franchises for Megu Delhi and Megu Bombay. And he goes, this is my gift to you. You run the restaurant, you open it. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be like a billionaire. This is it. I can
Yeah.
imagine like, all these things. And then I went back to India and thought, yeah, now it's like I've got Megu. So 6 months just going out, going to Goa, meeting friends,
Yeah.
traveling. And then I came back and I said, okay, now let's read this bloody agreement. It's an agreement. I was like, and it was like crazy. So I went to a friend of mine called Riaz Amlani, and he is at that point he was the founder of Impresario. They had at that stage about 20 odd restaurants. I said, listen, Riaz, I feel I have a sort of a, I understand food really well. I understand service. I have food common sense or restaurant common sense. I have that, but I don't have the admin or operational part, which I need to understand. And can you help me? I need to open this fantastic Japanese restaurant. I'm going to become a billionaire, so help me. And he's like, yeah, cool. Of course, let's talk about it. We started reading through the contract, realized very quickly. I mean, in 15 minutes, that it's absolutely unaffordable. It's impossible. The franchise fees were crazy. The kind of requirement, like get a sommelier or sake sommelier, get a wine sommelier, get three refrigerators for three different types of fish. And he's saying that, listen, by the time you do this, and in India, with these prices, it's going to take you like 10 years to recover your money if you're lucky. So then anyway, I introduced Hero to a few different people, and they finally opened at the Leela Hotel. And then then I had to follow a different path. And in this time that I was spending with Riaz, we realized that we were working well together. He also realized that I did understand food or menus, or I could see things, in presentation, or like just menu balancing, whatever it may be. And he said, look, whatever you were going to invest in Megu, why don't you just invest that in Impresario, and you just do what you want to do, which is food. And I never forget one thing he told me, which is great. And he said, look, what do you enjoy? Why did you come back to India? What do you want to do? And I said, I just love food. I love food. I love creativity. I love making menus. I love plating. I love recipe development. He goes, great. If you open a restaurant, that's going to be like 15% of your life. 85% of your life is going to be like a manager. You'll be managing your staff, managing people, issues, problem. Now somebody has found a hair. Now the plate is broken. Now what's happened to service charge? He's saying it's going to be a nightmare. If you really love this part of the business, then join me and take over the food for Impresario. And Impresario was a very well, it had a very good reputation, in the market. It was a great brand. It had a great team. And I thought, you know what, I could do this. And that's what I took the leap, and I did exactly that. And I started, working on all the menus across all the
That's
restaurants.
awesome. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I remember when I you mentioned Gotham. Whenever I go to New York and I go and eat with Gotham, uh, it's an experience because without Gotham, I think my average is $50-$60 per head. But whenever I eat with Gotham, it jumps to $300 per head. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter
he's
the
got a gift.
restaurant. It doesn't matter if it's lunch or dinner. The money I spend
Yeah,
with Gotham eating, but I still feel like it was worth it because now I live in Chile and the food here it's good, but it's not the
Yeah.
experience. And when you go with Gotham, he gets VIP treatment. I feel like I'm with
yeah, of
royalty.
course.
So anyway,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
sorry, back to you. So Impresario for a few years' time, and then how was Secret Ingredients created, which is again your F&B consultancy division?
Secret ingredient actually happened on the back of, I think, some panic and sort of realization of what was happening. So, to be honest with you, when I started, when I went back, I just thought, yeah, I mean, everything's going to be great. I didn't really have a worst case scenario. It was always the best case scenario.
You're an optimist.
Megu was, yeah, yeah. And then also I realized one thing: when investing into Impresario was different, didn't mean that I'm going to start, earning from day one. It's like it's a company, it's a valued company, and it's growing, and we had investors, so it wasn't like paying me back, and it was just kind of growing in value, and that was notional at that point. So there came a point where it was I'd kind of spent some money on, my wedding. I had spent money coming back. I spent money just living the life and enjoying life. I had spent money investing in Impresario, and then I was just like, wait a second, like now where's the income coming from?
Citibank
And when
savings was going down.
oh yeah, that went like in like I mean 3 4 months after I said I'm leaving. I went to New York for 2 days, and I came back after 2.5 months.
You weigh too
So
much on Gotham.
yeah, exactly. But I think that what eventually happened was that my wife was pregnant with our first child, and I kind of just literally, I mean, literally one night I woke up and it was like 12:30 at night, and I just couldn't stop thinking, like, what's happening? Like, I mean, am I thinking about my family? I think about my kid who's going to be born. And I went out and I had a home office, and I sat there and I literally thought, okay, what can I do? What can I do that can make me some money? I came to realize that um, a lot of people needed help in the industry. A lot of people, were not seeing things that I could see, and I don't know if that was me or whatever it was, or just intuition, or just, something that I had, but I could understand menus. I could understand concepts really well. I could see why certain things were not doing well, or what made certain restaurants perform better. So I decided that, I'm going to start reaching out to a few people who I think need help, and where I think I can actually very specifically help them with a product, or a section or a category, or whatever it may be. And I wrote down a list of 33 names across. schools, malls, people, universities, Dubai tourism, India tourism, whatever. I mean, I wrote down everything where I think I could help, and I started getting cracking on that list, and that was the birth of Secret Ingredient.
So was it a panic attack that, my wife is pregnant? Was it your Jerry Maguire moment?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that I always kind of I don't know. I always felt that, like, yeah, it's going to be fine, like something's going to happen, and but it never did. And I just think that I had to take, I had to take a tough decision and say, like, what am I doing actually? Like, that realization.
Yeah,
And that's it. And that was
yeah.
my first real client came from that list of 33, which was Select City Walk, which is a big mall,
The
a very,
mall.
very big mall. Yeah, a
Yeah.
very successful mall in India, and one of the most successful malls probably in the country for sure.
What'd you do for them?
I noticed that they had everything going for themselves, right? It was unaffordable. You couldn't get a space. You couldn't, you have to wait in line for like a year to 18 months to get, like food, restaurant, retail. They had all the best of the best. Uh, Anything that new opens there first, whether it's H&M or, Burger King or Zara. The first one is always at this mall. But their food court was in a terrible shape. They were unknown
McDonald's?
brands. They were run, not at all. McDonald's would have still been okay. They actually had an operator running, and what happened is, operator was a good operator, but the brands were like Mr. Dosa, Noodle Mania, like just unknown, and
I
also
remember
the
those
place
brands.
was a bit dark, yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
as a
remember those.
consequence, it wasn't doing very well. It was just doing, I mean, just barely just doing decent sales. So they called me in and they said, look, can you do an audit or whatever and see what you want to do? And I said, okay. So I went to see it, and they said we have a budget of like X amount. It wasn't a small budget, but it was not a large budget. It was like a refurb budget. And they said, let you go there and tell us what we can do. And I said, yeah, sure, amazing. Went there, I looked around. I spent about an hour and a half, and I just then when they called me and said, okay, what do we do? And I said, you know what, you can't do it. You can't save this place. It's too
Yeah.
dark. It's dingy. Lighting cannot help. The brands there's no recall
Refresh.
value, So
Yeah.
I think you're going to have to take a major step.
Yeah.
And so in the meeting, they're like, okay, thank you so much. And we'll get back to you. And I thought, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously,
Yeah.
that's not what they wanted to hear. They said, we'll call you next week. 2 days later, I got a call from the owner saying, okay, it's on. Come and give you a proposal. And I created a whole concept for that space, and that's almost exactly what I created actually happened, and
Wow.
it went from like a 40 lakh sale to almost a 3.5 crore sale the
That
minute
was
that
your
it
first
reopened,
client?
and they had
Wow.
all great
First
brands.
client.
That was my first real,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I mean, I made one menu for
Yeah.
somebody, whatever, but it was just like, it was nothing. That was my
That's
first
when you
real client,
that's when you decided
and
to have
yeah,
the second kid.
that's where, yeah. And yeah, that was it. And when you started off as a 6 month contract, and that 6 month contract lasted for 7 years. So yeah, 7 years I helped Select City Walk with started with a food court, but then also curation, ideation, concept, strategy, food, understanding, the data, how do we use that data, get analytical ideas of how to build, different parts of the mall. So it was a great team to work with also, to be honest. They were
And now
awesome.
you're even
Yeah.
consulting schools, correct? On their menu.
Well,
Now, I
his
mean,
school.
no, since then, we probably serviced about 150 clients, probably more, 250 projects, cloud kitchens, malls, schools, universities, FMCG. I mean, you name it, everything. And yes, my ex school, the British school, was also one of our clients where they wanted to create a better environment or better food for the kid, because that awareness is sort of building up. This was also a long time ago, in terms of, is the food organic, is it natural, is it antibiotic free, what are they serving in the tuck shop, is there a can of Coke, is there a Mars bar, and so we deep dived and created a we created an entire hot kitchen where they started hot food. We found a vendor for them. We did all the menus. We looked at the supply chain. It was all organic or largely organic, And with the tuck shop, we knew that we didn't want to upset the kids also by taking away everything. So we took away things were terribly bad for you, left, things a few, and also then we also added like popcorn, chips, ice cream, but just better ingredients and more natural flavors, and better brands, and we got those guys to discount the products for us for school, so it was affordable,
Have they lost
and that
weight?
was also a great one.
Have the students become smaller?
Definitely, definitely, because I think like the tuck shop is something that schools like. There's like, okay, it's just a tuck shop, and it's not a big deal. The interaction is not that much. But as the school grows and people have more breaks and there's extended days, that tuck shop becomes much more relevant to make sure that it's like sort of
You
healthier.
need to come consult
Yeah.
American schools. My daughter has a watch where she can text me during the day and she sends audio messages. And every other day I'll get, Mommy, can I get a chocolate chip cookie? And I'm like, stop asking me. No, no more cookies.
Yeah, yeah.
Sabrina, at least she's
I
I
asking
also
you.
know. Until when, though? If I keep
yeah.
saying no, she'll
Yeah.
stop asking me. Just eat it.
Yeah, yeah. It's I think a lot of schools could. I mean, we've been approached by a lot of schools after that also, and we're working with one or two now also to just help them with improving some of their, food for
Yeah.
the students.
Yeah. So Sid, you're running a successful F&B consultancy. You have 150 clients. Why on earth would you get into the D2C, competitive, crazy, high funding market and creating a luxury mithai product? How do you even think of such an idea? Were you approached by somebody, or whose idea was that?
I'm at the moment, and also Secret Ingredient at any given point have between 30 to 35 clients. So we've had
Okay,
a few, yeah, but just to let you know.
sure, active, yeah.
Um, yeah, actually, me and a friend of mine, we were on a ski trip. We were just talking, and out of all my friends, or my sort of closer friends, I'm the only person who's in food. And no matter whatever happens, whatever industry you're in, if you're not in the food industry, you always kind of, I mean, a lot of people always think about, I want to open a restaurant, or I want to open a bar, or wouldn't it be cool if I could sell this hot dogs, or I had this cool idea on, on selling this product. So I'm that guy that all these horrible ideas get bounced off. And I'm like, no, 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 no. But we were just talking about, I can't remember how it happened. We were just talking about, Indian mithai and what's happening. It's so sad what's going on with Indian mithai, and how could we bring it back? We're like, how could it? I said, why don't we open a mithai company? I'm like, no, it could never work unless it's like,
Was this Gotham, by the
it,
way? Was this Gotham
unless
skiing with you in
it's.
Aspen?
I mean, there were a few of us together, but Gotham
What
wasn't
was
the partner; it
happening
was
with
someone else.
mithai? Just it
Uh,
was a losing.
Cheap prices, mass
Yeah, mithai was
market.
become highly commoditized. It had lost that love and feeling, that warmth, that attention to detail, the attention to ingredients. So it was kind of retracting into a very, cheaper, faster. Sometimes even hygiene was questionable in some
Okay.
of these, places where it was
Processed.
being made. Yeah, and also like essence of flavor, color to make it look
Yeah.
brighter. Using cheap ingredients and using, flavor enhancers, and packaging was awful. Cardboard
Hmm.
boxes, are they food grade? We don't even know. So um, we
It
thought
became
that,
made in
the only
China.
way, yeah, and we thought the only way to actually create a brand could be if we create a luxury version of it, just a beautiful luxury version. At that time, it was still an idea, and I said, yeah, whatever, let's see if it works. And went back to India, and we hired what we thought would be the dynamic duo. We hired like a halwai, like a hardcore halwai who's making mithai, but he's never worked in a structured environment before. And I hired a pastry chef from a five-star hotel who had done Indian but also has that sort of French training. And I thought, that's it. You guys come together and just make me the world's best mithai, and I'll just be in the other room and just bring it over. And of course, it was horrible. They were fighting what to do and garnish, and he was trying to be modern. This guy was trying to do fusion. This guy was, refusing to use the halwa. I would say, why are you using such good quality oils and ghees? You can't do that. It's crazy. I'm like, listen, I'm paying for it. Just go for it. I just want to see what it tastes like. Is it going to make a difference or not?
Mm,
Um, and finally, I had to say goodbye to the halwai.
both.
Sorry,
Oh,
I said goodbye to the pastry chef
yeah.
because he was not really adding much value. And I, of course, had a deep understanding of recipe development, process, technique. So I called my wife and I said, look, you and me now need to go in here, and the halwai is going to make us watch. I said, now you make me a besan laddu, okay, basic stuff. Make me a motichur laddu. Make me a coconut barfi. Make me all these things from start to finish. And we were there watching, 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 watching. I was like, okay, now I we came to realize there's certain steps that we could improve, certain steps we can't do anything about, certain ingredients that could be better, certain techniques that could improve the entire finish of the product. And after about 30 to 45 days, the first box came out with like a bunch of things, and we ate them, and immediately I thought, this is it. I knew it. I knew that it was going to be successful because I thought, this taste is a taste that I've not tasted in a very long time. Mithai become also excessively sweet. Like if anybody gave you a box of mithai, like somebody got married or somebody bought a car, it's very traditional to, take a box of mithai to the
The
office.
green mithai, yeah.
Yeah, and then they would, what the first thing you do is break that laddu in half because you already are sensing that it's going to be so sweet. I don't want to have too much of it. Whereas in
Mm-hmm.
Khoya Mithai, it's almost like a box of chocolates. The sugar level is what it was meant to be. It's not so much. It's actually down about 25 to 30%, which is how Mithai was always made, so that the ingredients, which are like a badam or a pista or whatever it may be, you can actually taste the ingredients. And it's just not like this sugar kill. And I think that made a big difference to our product, and we packaged it beautifully,
I
and I
saw the
think that.
website. It is a beautiful packaging. I obviously haven't seen it in person yet, but compare it to a box of chocolates. Like, which chocolates, in terms of quality and luxury, would you compare it to?
So what we
Godiva.
were looking at, yeah,
That's what
I mean, a lot of people say Khoya is the Godiva of mithai, so
okay.
that is a tagline that we didn't, give ourselves, but were given to us by a few publications. But when we started working on the packaging, we knew that we had to get that 100% correct. So I actually went to Dubai, and the lower ground floor of Dubai Mall is basically all the confectionery you can imagine, like Godiva, the Ladderag, the Pachis,
Yeah,
the baklavas, then the Turkish stuff, and I mean everything with the kunafas,
beautifully packaged.
um,
Yeah,
beautifully packaged, right?
yeah,
And we literally started picking up boxes like one here, this, that. We also picked up an Apple iPhone box. We picked up a Joe Malone, candle box, anything that was exciting, interesting, whatever. And then we
Yeah.
came back to develop our first box, which is a square box of 16, and that became our signature box. And I think nobody had ever seen anything like that before. And in
yeah.
fact, a
I haven't
wonderful
in India.
story, yeah, a wonderful story is that a friend of ours had taken a box, and he was in Dubai, and he was going for a YPO dinner. And that YPO dinner was 8 people with Chef Nobu, right? So
Yeah,
and then he was going for a dinner after that. So he had taken a box of mithai and he was going to give it to his dinner guests. I mean, people who invited him for dinner. So Chef Nobu, like talking, he's like, "Hey, is that Japanese?" Which is already a massive compliment to us, the design. So he's like, no, this is an Indian mithai brand. And he said, oh, can I see? And of course, my friend's like, he opened it immediately and gave it to him, right? And said, have a go. He ate 4 pieces of mithai and he loved
wow,
it. And we actually posted saying, Chef Nobu, I'm so happy you loved it. And he actually liked the post also. So that was a great moment. I mean,
For
from where, and that,
sure.
that's awesome.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What can
Yeah.
you share? Anything, turnover, margin, investors, where you're going, like high
Yeah, I
level?
mean, Yeah, I mean, when we started the business with about um, 80 lakhs, right? Which I think is, if I'm not mistaken, about $90,000, right? That's where we started the business. And we recently, about a year ago, got valued at $3.2 million. So not bad. And
So
I
you got
think it
an
was great
injection of
because
capital? Like
we
who
got an
valued that?
injection of capital.
Okay,
Yeah, we had bankers on board, and we also had a lead investor, which is the Max Group, along with Vitu Dalmia, who's a very sort of highly acclaimed chef. And
okay.
together they became our lead investor. So they did their due diligence. We had bankers also on our side and their side, so we were working together and came up with a valuation. But we never actually,
Distribution,
apart,
distribution is pan
yeah,
India, or because of the
distribution
materials, it
is
has to be within a
is
certain area.
distribution is pan-India, but it's limited to shelf life because if it's now we have a lot of products, right? So we have, apart from mithai, we have teas, coffees, we have a lot of savories, we have mukwases, we have a lot of different things now which
Okay,
have great
so
shelf
each
life.
SKU will have
Mithai
different shelf
is
life.
always tricky, yeah.
Yeah,
And we the good thing is that for the first 2 3 years, honestly, it was just like, yeah, cool, doing well, it's fine, good. We didn't really think about it, and then things got a bit serious. We're like, you know what, maybe I need to focus more attention now here. And then we started building it. Numbers became better. We became more professional in our structure. We hired the right kind of people. And before
yeah,
we were just like three, four people, everybody doing everything, kind of a
Yeah.
space.
Now it's a
Then realized
business.
that, okay, now it's a business, right? So
Now
I thought,
it's a
okay, now I
business,
better
standalone
pay some
business.
attention. But it was wonderful because apart from that initial injection, we actually never, it ran on profits throughout that period. And then
Yeah.
till the time that we said, okay, now we really need to, get to the next level, that's when we raised the funds.
I mean, I can
Okay.
see this in Dubai and Middle East and expanding all sorts of places
Even
wherever
big
there's an
cities.
Indian diaspora.
So do you have like
Absolutely.
standalone shops or do you
We do.
sell through other?
We have a flagship store at it's in a mall. It's like a luxury mall in Delhi. It's called the Chanakya. So we have
Okay.
a store there. We're also present at the Oberoi in New Delhi. So we are part of their patisserie downstairs, and we do the mithai for the Oberoi. I think I mean, that's also for us was a wonderful, kind of sort of collaboration with the Oberoi because that's a hotel that we've always looked up to. For me, the benchmark
Sure.
of
In
just
India.
a super hotel and great service, and we were really happy.
Oberoi
And
and Taj,
they
same level?
yeah, no, absolutely same level. And with the
Yeah.
Oberoi, though, I feel that their um,
F&B.
attention to detail, yeah, and the F&B was also very, very strong. And and they would not just collaborate with anybody or to hire up with anybody. It would just be tough.
Yeah.
So that was a good win for us. And now, of course, the business is growing. We are opening in Dubai by the end of this year or beginning of next year. We'll be open in Dubai.
Wow.
We're opening a central kitchen and a store. We are opening in Mumbai also, and that's going to be interesting. And we are already in talks with somebody in Calcutta, who's interested in being a partner. And a lot of people have approached us all over, like South
Sure.
Africa, Canada. A lot of people in Canada, surprisingly.
Chile.
Yeah, there you go. Then one more, and of course the UK. So we have a lot of people who approach us. Now we have to just kind of, be a little bit more methodical on what we want to do.
Excellent. I can't wait to try it one day.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the most recent request that we have for partnership has come from Texas.
Really?
Yeah, we
Oh,
have
I
uh, we
thought.
have a, we have somebody we are working with now in Dubai who's
Hmm.
investing into the Dubai, unit. And he said, look, can I also get the first fair refusal in Texas because I've got some friends who are dying to get Khoya in Texas. And honestly, the consumption of like US is
Yeah.
just another level altogether. So
Yeah, I was going to say actually in San Antonio, where I live, which is about 2 hours from the border to Mexico, we have the largest outdoor Indian festival for Diwali in the country. And
oh wow,
I didn't,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
when I moved here, I had no idea. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
yeah.
I could see Houston, another one. So, well, hopefully we'll see you in Texas soon.
Yeah, yeah,
Let
hope
us
so too.
know when the next friends and family round is. Yeah.
For sure, for sure.
So let's talk about time management. You've obviously grown the F&B consultancy business. You've grown this luxury mithai business. Uh, I don't know if you're the founding partner in both businesses or you have a co-founder you mentioned for the mithai business. Is your wife involved? Can you tell us a little bit about the management team that you've made?
Yeah, I mean, I have with the secret ingredient was something I founded myself. I now have a partner who's joined me because it was just, I needed somebody else who to sort of help me grow because it was just impossible. At one point with secret ingredient, I had about nine clients, and I myself as one individual was running nine projects. It was crazy, you know. So I realized in order to grow, I needed to get one trusted kind of a person on board and who had to become a partner. So I had one partner there, a junior partner, and with Koya, I have a co-founder, it's me and another friend of mine. And what his purpose is he's more on the design, so it's like whatever you eat is me, and whatever you see is him. So he works more on the design part of things, and that's what he does. And I work more on the operations, running day to day, and of course the food and all the
Yeah, but
products.
I mean, you're obviously very busy, but you don't have no white hair. You must be what, 47?
I rather have white hair than no hair, and look at this, man, it's going.
Oh,
So I
it's
mean, I
thinning.
think I've lost more hair in the last, I'm not joking, the last year and a half, I've lost more hair than I have like in the last decade because
Yeah,
I'm, I don't know, like with Koya, things got quite serious, and then there's investors now. Then I'm also very
Mhm.
the pressure.
conscious that I need to make sure that I am doing what I can for them. Then there's timelines now. Also, I'm by nature, probably a terrible
OCD.
thing, but by nature, I'm not aggressive in like business aggressive. You're like, I want to open three things and, let's double or quit. So, now put all this profit now into this and now open one more store. And now let's see what happens 6 months down the line. I'm like, put that money in the fixed deposit and now keep on
Yeah.
doing good work. So, so now for me, like when we, for example, when we actually started hiring, a bigger team, for the first time I was in red on a month to month. And of course, it was also April, May, June. So it's a bad month for
Yeah,
mithai. That like the first two quarters are, April to September anyway, are not wonderful. Um, but that would just stress me out. And
you
my
lose hair
investors say it's fine. You're supposed to spend the money.
to
This
grow.
is normal. Build the team, and then hopefully, then 6 months down the line, 9 months down the line, you're going to benefit from it. But even that for me was like, oh my God, like I can't believe that I've lost like 5 lakhs this month or 6 lakhs this month, like or 8 lakhs this month. It was like just overwhelming. But now I'm, of course, I'm understanding how those things work and getting better at those parts of it.
Sid, what does success mean to you? Define success.
Um, I think, look, there are always numbers attached to everything. So you always have a target. I want to get these many clients. I want to reach this valuation. And even for Khoya, like when we got the money in, I gave myself a target and I said, if I consider myself that I've been successful with Khoya, from the time that I raised the money, 3 years, I want to be 100 crore company, you know, and that was like, but for me, to be honest, those are just parameters that everybody has. For me, success is just one word, which is happiness. I feel that as long as I'm happy, I'm enjoying going to work, as long as my family is happy, I have a balanced life, as long as the people that I work with and, my colleagues are happy, I'm giving them opportunities and I'm, nurturing them, making sure I'm listening and everyone's happy to come to work. For me, that is success. I mean, I think life is too short for stress and like issues and problems, and I stay very far away from it. I just I would just think that if kind of have a happy life, then that for me is success.
That's exactly my answer. We ask all our guests the same question, and that's my answer. So I love it. And I wanted to ask you at the beginning of this episode, you said, you thought you were going to India, and you're like, I'm going to open these Japanese franchises, and I'm going to become a billionaire. And you have this optimistic outlook. Do you think to be successful in business, um, you need to have that attitude? And I asked because I was just watching, it's called Super Pumped. It's the story about Uber and its founder.
Okay, nice.
And he goes, we just finished it this week, and he had that mentality like, no, we're going to be the biggest. This is the next, biggest thing. So, do you think you need to have that mentality to be successful in business?
I mean, I think that there is a spectrum, right? And there are people, like uh, Travis, or the founder of Uber,
Yeah.
and for them, they have that, like, oh, I want to be the biggest, I want to be the best. And for me, I think that my wife also was great in sort of getting me to sort of have bigger goals, or say, you know what, you're like, you can aim for higher, like just do what you want to do. And now I think that I do have, sort of good goals, but they're not like I want to be a trillionaire. So it's like it's not based on money per se, but it's a very comfortable life, right? And those are my kind of targets. So I'm not imagining myself buying a skyscraper or a $300 million yacht. But yeah, so I do have, of course, those
Just
targets, but
$30 million,
yeah.
$30 million yacht.
30 million is pretty good. Oh, is it? Oh, that's not bad.
The
Yeah, maybe
spectrum,
that yacht.
Sabrina, I think the spectrum you refer to is Americans. Sid, AI, are you using AI to come up with menus? Are you using it in your business on a day-to-day basis? Or is it something that doesn't worry you and you don't see it as a threat?
This is a very tricky question, maybe another episode on its own, but I would say that, see, AI has been around for a long time, right? And first it started more like, I mean, maybe 7, 8 years ago, we had tools that could, like, when somebody walked in, like, and they just gave their phone number or their name, we would get to know everything about that person. where they like to sit, where last three places they sat, last, what they ordered, what their high value is, what kind of time they came, who they came with, and we could use those tools to kind of like, and sort of have a better experience for that, client. Now, of course, with AI, the ability to, evaluate and get that more analytical kind of data out is far superior. So a lot of restaurants are moving towards it. I think in India, not as much right now because labor is also not very expensive. So to a great extent, I think that AI is happening at a different kind of a pace. However, yes, I think AI is not scary. I think that we need to work with AI to understand how we can, better ourselves. AI will be helpful. I think now AI is working on like the menu. You asked about menu development. No, we don't use AI for menu development. However, there is AI being built right now that helps you build, if you tell them this is the cuisine, here is where I'm going to be location wise, this is the kind of audience or the number of pricing that I want to be, it'll make an entire menu from you, including understanding where the supply chain is depending on your location. So it's like, it's absolutely amazing. There's also a cafe in New York that has a AI technology in their camera. This camera basically has a view of the coffee shop. It is basically able to recognize every single employee. It is understanding what drink that employee is making. So, for example, if you want to make an Americano, that's not so complicated. Now you want to make a Frappuccino with hazelnut, whatever. Now you want to make a cappuccino, that's a little more complicated. How many drinks are you making? What is your total billing? How many customers have you seen? And at the end of the month, the owner gets an Excel sheet of these 6 employees and it's basically efficiency. Who's your most efficient employee? Based on all these different parameters. I think
That's
that's
fascinating.
wonderful. I think
Is
it's
that good,
brilliant.
or is that a privacy?
I
Is
think
that a
it's
good
great.
thing?
I
No,
think
no,
it's
I think
great
it's
for a
great.
business owner.
Look,
As an
look,
employee,
we
I would
have
not want to be monitored in that level. I think that's too much for me.
no. I
But
mean,
I
see,
get
it
your point
depends on how. Yeah,
for
yeah. I mean, look,
efficiency.
it's a tool, right? And at the end of the day, it depends on the employee. If the employer is kind of like nuts and he's like, oh, I'm going to fire the last, the lowest person, the least efficient person, then yes, that's horrible. But otherwise, it's great to know because you can really start using that, and you can. I mean, we have to evolve, right, all the time. And I mean, they say that about 12 to 15% of all F&B jobs will be gone to AI in the next 9 8 9 years anyway. So
Serving or cooking, back end or front end,
both,
both.
both largely, but to a great extent, it's more like order taking, deliveries, all the drive-throughs. Those guys will always be the first to go, because
Yep,
now the voice recognition is
yep.
is there. So it's like, I mean, you can order like in Japan already. AI is very advanced. I mean, you can go into a restaurant, eat your food, have a drink, go out, and literally you've communicated with zero people. It's all like automatic.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
but I think in India, it's going to take longer. It's going to take a bit
For
longer over here. I think
for
in terms
sure.
of the tools, yeah, the analytical tools, that's working quite well. But in terms of anything else, it'll take a bit longer.
Okay.
Do we want to start rapid fire?
Actually, I have a couple other questions, if you don't mind,
Oh,
Sabrina.
Go on.
go for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
love it,
I
love it.
I'm
do, but
curious.
yeah.
I'm curious to know in Chile, when we go to a restaurant, it doesn't matter if it's drive-through, it doesn't matter if I sit there. It doesn't matter if I'm in a taxi. There's a 10% tipping that's expected always. In New York, I once gave at a Spanish restaurant 15% tip, and the waiter followed me saying what was wrong with my service because he wanted 20. And you know, I don't know what your thoughts are on tipping, but since you've been in F&B, I don't know what the tipping policy is in India. Can you maybe tell us what you think it is, what you think it should be? Are you okay with it?
I think I mean, I've traveled extensively, and I would say that in India, the tipping policy is, we have something called service charge that a lot of people levy, a lot of restaurants levy a service charge, and typically that's about 10%. Now, the government came up with the crazy rules saying you don't have to pay service charge, it's an added bill, and there was a lot of misunderstanding, it got misconstrued, and people were like, oh my God, the restaurant's overcharging us. But actually, that was just saying that it's a voluntary charge, service charge of 10%. If you feel that you have not had a good experience, just let us know. We're going to waive it off.
Even though
So
it's in the
I
bill.
think yeah,
But
absolutely. It's
okay,
it's optional, right?
okay,
I think it's very important to tip. I think it's great if you've had, because look, the staff get a certain limit, right? And the service charge or the tips is what kind of gives them, that sort of recognition. It gives them a feeling that okay, they're performing well. Sometimes it also is a component of the salary for a lot of people. Um, I think it's good to tip. Look, if you had a bad experience, absolutely do not do it. Don't do it. Why tip if you've not had a good experience? Right? If you've had an issue or a problem, that's different. However, if you had an okay
Percentage.
meal and there's been no issue, it's good. If you had a wonderful, fantastic time, add another 10%, no problem. In India, it's a little bit easier, and I think people are comfortable, with this process. And when you go to America, that's like those are kind of people who follow you outside expecting 30%, 25%. I mean, that is, I think where
Now,
where
now
tip where
even at
tipping
coffee
Yeah,
shops, they turn the iPad for you to pay, and
and
I
they like
literally just
tip.
bought,
Yeah.
tip.
yeah, a black coffee, and there's a tip, and people feel awkward not leaving it, because they're watching you as you press
My
the
wife
button.
doesn't. My wife doesn't feel awkward. She puts no tip every time. But
Yeah.
Sid, the question is, what is a percentage? Does it vary if I'm dining in versus takeaway? Should it be 10 and 5, 10 and 20? What are your thoughts since you've been in the F&B business? Should
Yeah.
there be a standard worldwide tipping policy?
I think, look, in like I said, look, so in the States, for example, what I don't like is when people are presumptuous about like, I no matter what happens, I need this tip. Like, why aren't you paying me that tip? Like same thing that what happened to
Yeah.
you in Spain. I mean, that's what I don't like, right? I mean, do a good job and let that reflect in the tip. And look, people don't mind tipping, if they've had a very good experience, you feel special and you're great, you don't mind giving that tip. I think takeaways, they don't, I mean, that tip does not, I don't know if that really qualifies, because in India, for example, if you have a takeaway order, there's no service charge because you
Oh,
haven't been
over here,
serviced.
over here we do.
Oh,
Over here
really?
we do. Because the chefs prepared it. So that 10% goes to them.
Hmm.
And then it all gets pulled up. So, but and the number 10, 15, 20, does it depend on the amount you spend or should it be a percentage?
No, I think that, it is kind of almost it's more like where you are. So in India, if you tip 10%, 15%, I mean, I think people are happy, on whatever the value may or may not be. And then as you go further into the West, that number sort of increases. In certain places they're expecting more, certain places they're expecting less. So it just depends on where you are. But I think that for me, I always give a tip for sure, like whether it's 10, 15, 20%, depending on
Yeah.
the level of service that we've received.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw another one at you. This summer, my husband and daughter and I were in La Jolla, California, near San Diego. We go to a restaurant and we just had appetizers and some drinks, and I get the bill, and at the bottom of the bill they added a 7% surcharge to the bill. And so I asked the guy, I said, "What's this? Is this like the
The
gratuity?"
tip.
And he said, "No, it's a surcharge." And then there was a little note at the bottom. It said, "Due to inflation and increased prices of food, and we're putting that 7%." And I said, "Look, it's totally fine. We're going to pay it. Not a big deal. But how many angry customers have you had?" He said, "Plenty." And I said, "What do you say to them?" And he said, "Well, we're not increasing the menu prices, so we're charging 7%."
Because
And
they didn't want to
they're
print
not telling
new
anyone.
menus.
Yeah, they're not telling anyone ahead of time. It's you get the bill, and I was shocked to see that. I've never seen that
That's
before.
that's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, that's like nuts. That's like, that's the guy who's, going like, oh, I want these, jeans for like $100. Give me a discount. He goes, oh no, this is already discounted for you, $100. You're like, no, it isn't. I just had started the conversation. So really, honestly, if he wants to put that 7%, they have to be on the menu. And that's what
yeah, it
everybody in the
wasn't.
whole universe does.
Yeah.
When things become more expensive, prices go up, and it's normal.
Yeah,
Like, in
yeah,
India, food inflation is nuts in the last couple of
Yeah.
years. It's been really, really high. And it's absolutely fine to
Worldwide.
increase prices.
Sid,
And because
worldwide.
it's not believable to have a surcharge, then it's like, like that's just
Yeah.
that's laziness or I don't know what.
Sid,
yeah.
you've eaten in Michelin star restaurants, you've eaten in fine dining, you've eaten in casual, you've eaten in lots of restaurants. I see you and Gautam's Instagram. I spy on you guys. If you had to name one city in the world which would you would give the gold standard or the the most recommended place to go and eat? I know it's a hard one, but is it New York? Is it Tokyo? Is it, Delhi, Bombay, London? For many, it's London. For others, it's New York. What is it for you, since you've eaten in more restaurants than I know?
God, that's such a, I mean, this is an unbelievably crazy question. But
I
I would
like
say
asking though.
that, yeah, yeah, I would say that there are, it's very difficult. Like, I mean, I'll tell you what, like, even, okay, I would say between all of the ones that I can imagine, it would probably be a trade-off between New York and London. Um, for me, London had the edge, but now in the last 4 or 5 years, I haven't been traveling to London much. So, but
Yeah.
I can see what's happening in the food scene is developing like wonderfully. And New York also is such a melting pot of so many cultures. It's great, So I think that between those two, it would be there. But then also you have like these great surprises like Singapore. I just love the food in Singapore. The food, the level, the quality is just brilliant, and maybe a
Yeah.
little bit more towards an Asian touch, but it's I've also been very happily surprised by Singapore's food scene and their bar scene. It's incredible.
Sabrina and I make our holiday list by looking at yours and Gautam's Instagram profiles.
Yeah,
Sabrina,
so
I'm ready
Sid,
for.
my
Yeah,
Amitu knows this. My husband, he says he eats to survive. He's not a foodie. So, and I am part of an extended family that are huge foodies, right? I enjoy
yeah,
food. So he literally will just, for lunch, he'll eat a like raw broccoli and he feels fantastic.
Wow.
And
yeah. We are
yeah.
foodies, our
So I'm
family.
gonna travel with the two of you to
Yeah,
the
yeah. I
best
think you need a
restaurants in the
break from
world.
that. Yeah, come on then. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Why don't you start, Sabrina? A
All
rapid
right.
fire, Sid.
Well,
Uh, try and keep it short. Quick answers.
Okay.
if you could sit and have a meal with anyone in the world, past or present, not including family, who would it be?
Or Jamie Oliver, or Gordon Ramsay, or Anthony
And
Bourdain.
it doesn't have no, it doesn't have to be a
It's
chef. Anyone.
Yeah, oh,
You
yeah, it
want
Yeah,
could
to
be
sit and
anyone.
have
but
a meal with.
for me, I have thought about this before, and for me, the answer is actually Anthony Bourdain because I think that if you know him,
Yeah,
he is that kind of very like eclectic. He's like he just knows all the small places where
yeah,
to
he
eat
does.
this hand pulled noodle from this one lady in Saigon. Like
Cool.
I mean, that's what I would love to, because like I mean, sure, chefs are chefs, but he was very different, from
Yeah.
a lot of the chefs today. And he was like a traveler. He was like just for him, discovery was a main part.
He would eat
Sorry, that was
anything.
a long answer. Yeah.
No, it's okay. He
Very
would eat
cool.
anything. Okay, next. Your favorite cuisine and your least favorite cuisine.
My favorite cuisine is, oh, what kind of questions are these guys? Like tough one, man.
You know what?
Um,
We don't make this up. We don't want to make it easy. We want to
it's
get to know
tough.
you.
Yeah. See, I'm not going to say Indian food. You know why? Because Indian food is almost like 20 cuisines in one country, right? Because when you
Hmm.
go north, east, south, coast, it's just all different.
If
And
you
it's
want,
very
make it favorite
versatile.
dish. Make it favorite dish
No,
if
no,
you want.
I would say no. I would say that I probably it's Chinese and Cantonese Chinese. That Royal
Okay.
China, Baker Street kind of Cantonese Chinese.
Don't don't
I
don't
think
don't
that
remind me.
is like when I go on a holiday, like when
Yeah,
we were in Rome for 3 weeks, and I was like, eventually I was like, man, there's only like pasta, there's pizza, there's grills, and that's
yeah.
just about it. What else is there? And I felt bad for them because in Indian cuisine you can eat 45 days, you can eat 45 different meals. Like just
Yeah.
there's so much
So
versatility.
true.
That Royal
Yeah.
China hot and sour and dim sum with some
But
Peking
when
duck.
I go traveling, I don't
Yeah,
miss like my wife's like in daytime. She's like, "Oh, I wish I could have dal chawal." I'm like, I wish I could eat like dim sum and like that steamed fish. Like for me, I crave
yeah.
Chinese.
Yeah,
So
the
I think
black
maybe
cod
it's that.
at Nobu.
Yeah, too
Yeah.
good, man.
And least favorite cuisine?
I'll tell you what, I'm, it's very rare that I go somewhere and you have a meal that's not good. Nowadays, like it's difficult. But there was an incident where I was in fact in Dallas,
Okay.
and
Taco
we went to
Bell.
a no, we went to a very famous. I love Tex-Mex. I love
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tex-Mex. I love
yeah,
tacos and torchis and all of that stuff. I love it.
yeah, yeah.
But we were in Dallas
Chipotle. Yeah.
and Velvet Taco. I mean, I love all of that. We
Yeah,
went
you
to
know.
a place which was really famous. Like I'm not sure if it was called Javier or something like that. It was like a very like a fine dine Mexican restaurant. And
Okay.
honestly, I mean, a lot of the food was just like mushy, and
Bland.
the mole
Uh,
was like not great, and I know for a fact that it was like a very good Mexican restaurant. And I think
Okay.
that maybe I just don't like that very traditional Mexican food. I like
Okay.
you know, the torchy style.
Yeah.
Sabrina,
Okay. When you think of the word successful, who's the first person that comes to mind?
got them.
Is that your answer?
For me, it's Elon Musk. But anyway, let's not.
Okay. Um, I think that I think my for me it's my dad because I didn't realize how successful he was, till he passed away. I didn't realize, and when he passed away, his face was on the front page of the Financial Times. So he was the youngest ever, managing partner he was heading investment bank at a very young age. He was like the golden boy, all of this stuff. And it's only after he passed away, and I would like hear stories and all the people he helped, getting jobs, getting their first job, helping them out when they were down. And I think that, that was for me, and I mean,
Wow,
amazing. And at
I
a
had
very
no
young
idea.
age,
Well, was he
he
like a
was
Deepak Parekh?
successful. Yeah,
What
he was
that?
crazy. Yeah, he was crazy.
Wow.
And when, and he had many offers to join banks, he was many offers to become, managing partners of American Express and a lot of different things. He would just say no. He was like, I want to focus on, the company that like sort of I built. And he worked for ANZ Relays all his life.
I
So
love that.
so I think
That is
that was, I
crazy.
mean,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So, speaking of crazy, next question. Tell me something that you believe in that other people might think you're crazy,
Something that I believe in that other people
that
think
others
that might
don't.
be crazy.
Something that's unconventional.
I think one thing is that, in India, and I'm sure it's probably true in other markets also, there is there are a lot of people who kind of hide things from competitors, or they feel that, oh, let's not tell this person that, or let's like block these people
Yeah,
Mhm.
no
from our
transparency.
Instagram. Yeah, and for me, I think I'm the opposite. I feel that, like, even when like when people start mithai companies, sometimes I get a box of mithai and I call them up and say, good job, man, that was a really great, and I even give them honest feedback on what I think they could do better. And I think that's one thing where I'm a bit different. I feel that the market is huge. One
Huge.
competitor, 10 competitors are not going to make a dent in your product as long as your product is good, and
Yeah,
you have that consistency. So I think that one thing is that I'm open to conversation with a lot of people. So if people need help or advice, I don't mind giving it, even if it's in direct competition to what I'm doing. Doesn't matter.
I'm the same. I believe in the same. Sabrina,
Last question. If your life was a story, what would it be titled?
Pursuit of happiness.
I think that's a movie already
It is.
called that.
That's taken.
That's right. Okay, next one
And
would
last
be
and last time I
Pursuit of
checked,
Deliciousness.
he just slapped someone pretty badly.
That's fair. Or Pursuit
But
of
it's a great
Deliciousness.
title. I
Yeah,
think it's a
yeah.
great title. So take it.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last title. What was the second title?
In Pursuit of Deliciousness.
Ooh.
I prefer that. In Pursuit of Deliciousness. I like that one. I like that one. Sid, we've exceeded our time. I apologize for that. We try and be
No,
respectful about our guest
no,
time
no.
frame. Um, I'm hungry, so thank you. Thank you so much. This has been awesome to catch up with you. Next time I'm in Bombay or Delhi, I'll definitely reach out. And
Please do.
I'm sure you're going to keep crushing it. And I'm looking forward to see your mithai all over the world.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes,
I hope so
it.
too.
Thank you so much. I really think that you following your passion is inspirational. So keep doing what you're doing. And everyone, this has been another episode of Indian Explorers. I hope you share it with others and hit the subscribe button. Thank you.